bright silver singing river. There's beauty in that sunrise in the sky, but all of these and nothing else can touch the beauty I remember in my true love's eyes. And only if my own true love was waiting, if I could hear her heart softly pounding, oh, and only if she was lying by me, I'd lie in my bed once again. That is part of Tomorrow Is a Long Time by Bob Dylan, one of my favorite songs. And the thing about the beauty, so that's the topic of today. Like, I don't know. I think basically beauty is possibly my main motivation in life, or what I think is maybe most important. And so not in like physical beauty, although that's part of it, that's great. But more on the deeper philosophical level. Like say the Christians traditionally talk about the three aspects of virtue, I think it is. I mean, I'm pretty ignorant of this. I'm working on that. But I think which are, I believe, truth, goodness, and beauty. And that's kind of interesting. Like beauty seems to be like the dark horse, or whatever the expression is here, where it's like the kind of less easily comprehensible one of those. Like good, yeah, do good things, be a good person. Truth, be honest and be aware of the truth. So see and communicate the truth. Truth in, truth out. And goodness, yeah, I guess, just be a good part of the world. But then beauty, it's like, why is that so important? Look what your shoes, you should have really beautiful shoes. No, it's more beauty of spirit or beauty of mind, moral beauty or something. And I think, so that's what I'm kind of interested in talking about today. Put down this guitar, although it's difficult sometimes. So, yeah, like there's the physical beauty of like, oh, like what is that when we think things are beautiful? Like, oh, a plant's beautiful, more beautiful. A living plant is more beautiful than a dead plant, or like a fake plant, right? Some people would go, oh, if it's realistic enough. No, yeah, okay, good luck with that. I think if you polled the whole planet, the overwhelming majority of people, including the overwhelming majority of very educated people, would all agree, yeah, living stuff is more beautiful. And then if you say, oh, in theory, everything's just protons, electrons, neutrons, it's all the same. And, you can see beauty in anything, like a brick wall. If you're like a sage, you can look at it and you can go, my own consciousness is in the wall, and you can, wow, isn't it amazing that there's an experience of a wall being witnessed? Where is this even happening? How is this even possible? This is a miracle, But you can do that with everything. And so everything's got that basic level of beauty of being, of consciousness and the universe, the living universe. But then some things, nature compared to like some dirty back alley, it's more beautiful. Now, is that just because it's more, clean or like healthy? Well, I don't know. It could be full of dangerous animals and it's still going to be more beautiful. And you could know that it was full of some sort of toxic poison and you'd still say it's more beautiful. So even if like you wouldn't want to go there, you say, yeah, it's more beautiful though. Look at this beautiful jungle or whatever it is. So I think beauty is kind of like, well, yeah, let's go into it a bit more. It's a bit about, it seems like mathematics, like geometry. Like say, people who have very symmetrical faces apparently are rated as more attractive. So there's that, there's symmetry, and just certain like geometric stuff, like say the triangles on your face and the golden ratio, like from the Fibonacci sequence, right? Like 0, like each item in the list is the previous 2 items, the sum of the previous 2. So So you got 0, 1, kind of like nothingness or something, and then the next one's going to be 1, then the next one will be 2, next one will be 3, next one will be 5, etc. That how, you know, the sacred geometry, it's all about the kind of study of how basically there's these patterns throughout life, largely based upon the golden ratio, which just expresses itself through the universe, which kind of makes sense. You know, this plus that equals the next thing. You know, basically that's the only number sequence there is where it's just that simple. The previous two things put together makes the next thing. You know, and so it kind of makes sense that that's how everything evolves. But yeah, so, and you know, if you look at galaxies and everything, or down to atoms, the golden ratio is everywhere. You know, this which is very interesting. So there's this mathematics built into the universe, both in terms of what we see, and then so when I guess when we recognize patterns, that could maybe that's part of beauty, natural patterns, or whereas maybe certain human creations might be a bit out of sync with the basically the pattern on which the most of the universe has evolved, and maybe that's, you know, perceived as ugliness, or you know, because like, oh, it's not the thing that which you can build a universe on. I don't know. But then also, yeah, in architecture and music. So music is like basically variations of proportion and rhythm. But basically, you know, like if you look at the rhythms and things, it's in the temporal dimension. It's geometry in the temporal dimension, sort of, right? Like it's variations of what do you say, like proportion, distance, patterns between numbers, basically, and scale, right? Or and so, and then you're layering these patterns all on top of each other. And so in the same way that you can do that when you're building things physically, like a temple, you can, and apparently the ancient Egyptians would build their temples like kind of like you arrange music. It was like, yeah, these are visual vibrations going into your, you know, you're seeing these wavelengths are going into your eyes and you're processing it, and your brain is putting together all of this stuff. And there's an emotional impression that all of these patterns of very simple, basic, you know, iterations and of similarity and difference in the physical dimension, that's creating an emotional impression on the palette of your mind, just like music does to us. And so that's beauty. And you might say, oh, all music doesn't matter. Punk music's just as beautiful as, you know, Bach. And yet, I think, again, if you take the vast majority of people, doesn't mean it's always true, but it's a good no smoke without fire sort of thing, or rarely smoke. Rarely smoke without fire? Yeah, basically. Sometimes it might be steam. It might look like smoke. So no smoke without fire, but sometimes it's steam. Like, so what do most people think? They would say Bach is more beautiful, you know, and if you poll the number of people, you know, times people have cried or had their lives changed by some classical, you know, really beautiful, soulful classical music. You know, some classical music I don't really feel like, it feels a bit soulless, you know, a bit like it's just going through the motions. It's lost connection to the source of inspiration. Whereas some punk music might, you know, have more of a connection to it. So some punk music for sure is more beautiful. And you know, you get into like the Clash or something, you know, like Daddy was a bank robber, but he never hurt nobody. He just liked to live that way, and he loved to take your money. That's very beautiful, I think. But that's getting a bit more into melody and, again, the patterns and stuff. And you can look at poetry, and there's modern, you know, modern kind of conventionless poetry can be very interesting, but not for that long, you know. Whereas I could, you know, read kind of like Elizabethan poetry, good stuff, like wow, almost endlessly, you know. It's like, wow, they really were following a kind of science or an art to it. I guess their art was more science. There's more, it was in balance with, you know, the patterns and what sounds good, what feels good, you know, of different sounds, and they were creating patterns between, you know, the vowels and the consonants or the syllables, iambic pentameter. Whereas I guess the modern world, we've kind of turned a bit more into, oh, what's different, what's new? That's part of our culture. And I guess that modern culture has created a lot of good things. We have kind of broken free from a lot of you know, nonsense, like, you know, racism or tribalism or you know, what have you, like religious orthodoxies, and been able to kind of imagine, like, oh, find things like, crazy scientific discoveries. But then on the other hand, there's, usually you don't get something for nothing. Usually there's a trade-off. And so it seems like to me we've kind of maybe worshipping a little bit, maybe underappreciating just tradition and the banal simplicity of the past or of the known, of order. Um, and so, like, say with poetry, if it's rhymes, some people are like, oh, I'm not going to read it if it's rhyming. What's the point of that? That's old-fashioned. It's like, oh, is it? Or maybe you're old-fashioned compared to the future when everyone kind of finds the middle and goes, oh, actually, no, there's a balance point here between the things. Anyway, but so yeah, but so this is beauty, and so if we go back to, like, say the human, yeah, there's beauty of like physical beauty, like geometry or just what looks nice, colors and that kind of thing. Um, but then there's also a sort of spiritual beauty, um, or where, like, some people say personality, some people are just very charismatic and attractive, even though they might not physically be very attractive. There's something about them. The way that they live is kind of attractive, right? You might not say it's necessarily beautiful, but I think for sure, like, say Luke Kelly, who's this Irish singer, I wouldn't say he was particularly beautiful, although in some things he's kind of got some thing of him doing Raglan Road on some TV show. He's looking pretty good, I'd say, red curls, kind of blonding. It's this huge afro, and he looks pretty relaxed and pretty cool, But in general, I'd say, he's not looking too, you know, ad, Adonic, I don't know. Not looking too much like an Adonis, but he's like got a great beauty to him, because I think the way he sings, he's expressing emotion very, very powerfully and connecting to music, like being an open, humble channel for music, and also just seems like a very humble, kind of cool, balanced person. Um, and I think that comes off, and we like, so in a way, just like a temple, if it's, one wall is crooked, that puts off the balance and of the pattern. Someone who's really good at music and everything, but they're kind of a little bit egotistical, that's kind of like a crooked line. They're a bit out of balance in terms of their habits or their personality. Where someone like Luke Kelly seems to be more like, oh, wow, like you're really kind of a balanced person. You seem to be, you're the kind of person who we could have a whole planet of you. It's like a sustainable personality pattern. Or maybe they would run out of alcohol, but, um, uh, but yeah, and so there's this, or like you look into someone you really love, into their eyes, and you see light, and you see just their soul and who they are, and so that's an even deeper level where um, it seems like there's just something mystical and mysterious and unexplainable, inexplicable, ineffable about uh, uh, what is that? What is it that's so attractive? Like in that Bob Dylan line, but none of these, and but all of these, and what is it? Uh, but all of these and nothing else could touch. None of these, or whatever it is. I can sing it, um, but all of these and nothing else can touch the beauty. I don't even know if that makes sense, but yeah, basically saying nothing can touch the beauty of that I remember in my true love's eyes, which I think a lot of people can relate to, and I wish more people could relate to. Um, and hopefully one day, sooner or later, one of these lifetimes, everyone will be able to relate to this. Um, but like, yeah, what is that when you just see really deeply into someone? And is it the light? Is it like you see a light in there? And what is that? Is it like even the black of the pupil? There can be the light of consciousness in there. So the light in the darkness. But then also there's the kind of light of, there's a bit of a reflection there. But is that where the soul is? Or like, it's very mysterious. Where is the soul? You see the eyes are the windows to the soul, but the soul, like, it's very hard to pin down. Like, what is that? All that seems to be sayable is that, like, it's this presence. Someone is there. If you look at a really good drawing, it looks like there's someone in the drawing, like in the eyes, But there's no one there. That's just a painting, Um, but when you or you look in a drawing that's not so good, you're like, there's no life there. It's lifeless. You know, the eyes aren't believable. But a real person's eyes is like, well, there's someone right in there, even though it's also made out of protons, electrons, and neutrons, just like the sheet of paper. But you know there's someone present there. And so that's sort of like everything's made out of consciousness. Everything is spirit, which is life. The whole universe is made out of consciousness. This seems to be the way it is. And so it seems like it's kind of peeking out at us everywhere. Hey! He's peeking out at me at some random kid here. So yeah, and so that's kind of, I think, if you look in someone's eyes, that's a very, very deep insight into beauty, I think. And so bringing it back to what I was saying before, like there's these levels of beauty. There's the physical, there's kind of the emotional or character level, or like, you know, mental level or behavioral level. And that's kind of the spiritual level. But just in general, like if you think about, like I was thinking about what motivates me reading a book where it's saying, you know, more to achieve your dreams. It's called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Very good so far. And it's kind of one of the main things it's saying so far is, probably the main thing so far, is that to achieve your dreams and be successful, it takes more than willpower and determination. That's not going to be enough. Discipline, that's not enough. You need to have why power. You need to know why you're doing it. You need a very strong motivation, and that's going to sort everything out. If you've got strong enough motivation, everything else falls into place. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, perhaps the thing I kind of landed upon for now is existential beauty or cosmic beauty. So basically, zoom out, think of the Milky Way. That's beautiful enough as it is. But just think, you know, on Earth, we could be here all being selfish and kind of trying to, you know, help each other get more pleasure at each other's expense, and being fearful and being angry and trying to dominate and trying to be smarter than each other and whatever, you know. I don't know. How does that feel? Feels a bit pointless to me. Then what about we encourage ecosystems to rebound and flourish, so the colors and the bounty of nature blooms back all over the world, you know, regenerate nature, help nature. Nature does it herself, but just help live in balance with nature so nature can regenerate. Imagine that. We have all these shining advanced cities, and we have kind of smaller towns and little villages. So we can have our technology and all that, but nature is just all everywhere in between, just beautifully cultivated and just wildly gushing forth in her glory, you know? That sounds good, right? And what about human beings? Like, what if the whole planet was really, really educated? What about like the whole planet was Renaissance men and Renaissance women? Everyone just knows everything, all this stuff about all kinds of subjects. Yeah, we're all just really, really well informed. We've got great education in the year 2300, you know? And what about people still have their conflicts, still have their fights? A minority of people still have fist fights, or like, you know, even maybe there's even like violence and or like, you know, more death or, you know, murder and things, you know, but it's much, much, much rarer. And it's, you know, kind of the thing like a big street brawl these days. You don't see that very much. Maybe individual brawls you'd see, you know, just toning down the levels of everything. And war, just kind of having war, maybe even war, we could get rid of that level, maybe, you know, or at least make it far less frequent. But even, yeah, just eventually get rid of that, overcome that through understanding our connection to each other and how we're all one, basically, different branches of the same tree. And I think a lot of that is through seeing the beauty of another culture, like being able to appreciate, like, say, I gave an example in some previous podcasts, but Korea I used to be like, Korea, seems kind of boring for some reason. I don't get it. No, I'm not interested. Then from teaching Koreans, I started to get an insight into their culture and their language and, you know, just the way they're dressed and stuff. And it's starting to get really interesting and really cool. And I really appreciate it now. And it's very unique. It's different to Japanese, different to Chinese, different to Taiwanese. It's a unique kind of thing. I'm like, I'm very glad that that's there. That's part of the world, the bounty of life. And so we can have that with the whole world, where everywhere when we can appreciate the unique beauty of every little branch, then every branch is welcome on the tree, you know? And um, when we've got that harmony, everyone living in peace, and then everyone's, following their own dreams. Oh, you're making your music. Oh, I'm making money. I'm solving people's problems, and just getting a bunch of money, buying a lot of houses, having great experiences, going to these, really fancy restaurants where people are really good and they charge a lot of money for it because they're the best. I think that's all fine. If let people do that, be like, capitalists and all that. Why not? If it's voluntary, people don't have to give them their money. If they want what they've got, they give them the money. That's cool too. It's got its own beauty to it. And let the whole world have this diversity of everyone can live their own way. Um, but just that we kind of have this fundamental harmony where the vast majority of people are living in harmony, and where we can move towards a point where maybe everyone's completely in harmony. And I think it would still be interesting, and you never have complete harmony. It's yin yang. Disharmony is part of the harmony. Everything in moderation, including moderation itself. Balance requires occasional imbalance. Otherwise, it would be too extreme. And so, but the question is, what level of that imbalance is necessary, and what would be more beautiful? I think the world I'm describing of, nature's beautifully, not just cultivated, but beautifully allowed for. And society is cultivated and beautifully allowed for. And kind of just like nature, let everyone do it. Some of it can be kind of centrally kind of coordinated, but mostly just decentralized. Just let people express themselves. So we have nature and society, and then the individual. Let everyone kind of, like, if every person is just kind of really giving the gifts that they have by their unique nature, some of them more simple than others, but all of them equally unique and therefore equally valuable on that fundamental level. Although on another level, you could say some people's gifts are more valuable. Someone who can really solve a lot of problems, or, music, Bob Dylan's music, okay, that's more valuable than, some random other person's music. But on another level, they're equal, but Bob Dylan wins twice, the other person wins once. But everyone's a winner. So I just kind of have this vision of like the earth just kind of thriving, and it just feels so beautiful. Imagine that, the green and blue of earth in space, and everyone's really wakes up, leaps out of bed with a spring in their step, ready to go get up to some adventures. Yeah, there'll be some arguments, there'll be some fights, there'll be some mistakes, failure. That's part of the learning. People are still going to get sick and die, and that's all. There's still going to be heartache and all. But just, do we really need the amount of conflict and malevolence and incompetence and mediocrity and self-sabotage and self-limiting beliefs and emotions that we have these days? Do we need that? I don't think so. And I think we can do better than this. And I feel very passionate when I even just think about or talk about this. And so that helps me kind of guide me forward in my own little way. Whatever I'm doing, I'm trying to contribute to this more beautiful planet and beautiful universe. Because the thing is, this is in the universe. There's very likely other places in the universe on similar journeys. And so we can, by resonance, it's all connected. We can embody this and, try to spread it, be a good example. And even just here, even if this was the only planet in the whole universe, that we would be kind of redeeming life and the universe by making this beautiful, this planet where there's truth, people seek the truth and speak the truth, and in their own way try to figure it out. Like from our many angles, try to understand what's going on and try to express that. And people are good. We live in harmony, and we try to give our best gifts, and we try to be virtuous people, whatever, in our own ways. And we seek our own beauty, and we seek the beauty in others. We seek to express and experience beauty. And that seems a lot better than kind of like selfish pleasure seeking. And I think it's much more meaningful. It's much more pointful. And yeah, maybe, if you like that, yeah, why don't you kind of ruminate upon that and kind of reflect upon that and kind of, yeah, trying to get the fire of your passion burning by thinking about what is my own beauty, not in a physical sense, although that too, take care of your beauty. Why not? It's part of life. Just because, some people are vain and care too much about their beauty doesn't mean you shouldn't care how your hair looks or what clothes you wear. It's like, why not? It's an expression of the divine. Everything's divine. So why would you, not take care of one little part? And inevitably, like we're talking monkeys, inevitably it is going to affect you if you don't look good. You can try and rationalize it away, but you're going to feel it. And so if you want to be part of a beautiful world, it makes sense to wear the clothes which you genuinely feel are beautiful. And if you're doing it for yourself and not for others, then that's totally authentic and legitimate, I think. Um, and so, yeah, so cultivate your beauty on every level and try to cultivate the beauty of others on every level. Obviously they have their free will, but do what you can to encourage them. And with my family, that's how I'm feeling. I try to encourage the beauty in my very, very beautiful partner and our very beautiful child and my wider family and community, just random people on the street. I always try to see the beauty in them and to encourage each other and to kind of see them as myself living another life. And imagine a whole planet where we were seeking to express and experience beauty. That seems pretty exciting. So that's kind of my motivation. And 67, this episode, that number, I find that quite beautiful. I don't know why. 67, why? 1967 seems like, oh, that's cool, nice. I don't know why. But I think I'll end there. But that's kind of one of the things about beauty. It seems one of the things why it's so interesting or has such an attraction to me is that I don't understand it, It's kind of seems like maybe truth is head, goodness is hands, and beauty is heart. They say, I think it's Steiner schools, they educate the head, the hands, and the heart, I think. And I think they start with the hands, heart, head. I think they go in that order as the kids are getting older. So they kind of do more advanced mathematics and stuff as they're older. They start off with more embodied practices and stuff and social skills and that kind of stuff. And motivation and that kind of self-regulation, I think. But yeah, so beauty seems to me like, yeah, it's just seamless. I don't know. And yeah, I think it's sometimes I just try to ponder that and go like, yeah, what is beauty? And why is it so beautiful? Even the word beauty, I love it in English, beauty, incredible. All right, so I'm going to go think about beauty for a bit. I'll leave you there and enjoy your beautiful moments. Beautiful people. That's right, you.